Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we explore compelling ideas, dig into the source material, and give that distilled knowledge right back to you, ready to use.
And today, we're looking at something I think many people feel quite deeply.
Yeah, it's this psychological concept summed up in a really powerful phrase. Stop trying to heal in the same place that hurt you.
It's very direct, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it captures a fundamental truth about recovery. Our sources, well, they really set the mission here.
Okay.
We're exploring why it's so incredibly difficult, maybe even, impossible to genuinely recover from significant pain or trauma if you stay stuck in the same toxic environment or relationship or situation that caused the wound in the first place.
And we see this play out all the time, don't we? Like the employee trying to beat burnout by just working harder in that same draining job culture. Or, a friend trying to recover their confidence while still talking every day to the person who constantly undermined them.
They're essentially trying to heal while still standing in the fire, so to speak.
Exactly. So our goal today is to give you, the listener, a kind of map. We want to understand why distance, physical or emotional, is so critical.
And what specific actions, what behaviors true healing actually requires. Things like gaining perspective, properly processing difficult emotions, and actually building new patterns.
Right. It's about building a whole new foundation.
Yeah, we need to get beyond just coping or surviving day to day. This is about setting up a new starting point, really. A place where the effort you put into healing actually, pays off, where you see real, lasting change.
Okay, let's unpack that then. We kind of intuitively get that staying put is bad, but let's get specific. Based on the research, what are the core psychological reasons, the obstacles that staying put creates? Why does it actively sabotage recovery?
Well, there are basically three key dynamics that create this kind of psychological trap. Understanding them really shows why distance isn't just nice to have, it's often a necessity for therapy to even work.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first one is pretty straightforward. Ongoing harm. Harm. Simple as that. If you stay in the environment, that difficult job, that emotionally damaging relationship, whatever situation caused the initial pain, well, the source of that pain might just keep hurting you, maybe daily.
It's like trying to bail out a boat while someone's still drilling holes in the bottom.
Precisely. It's completely futile. You're constantly using up your limited energy for healing just to manage the immediate damage.
Right.
So you just can't start a real, sustained healing process if you're being continually re-injured. It stops any progress from actually taking root. You might manage a small fix here or there, but the bigger issue just keeps going.
And if that wound keeps getting reopened, your brain, your nervous system, it never gets the message that it's okay to relax, to start repairing.
Exactly.
Which I guess leads us straight into the second obstacle, the one about habits and behaviors.
That's right. It's the problem of reinforced negative patterns. See, toxic environment forces you to develop very specific ways of surviving. And these aren't healthy long-term habits. They're coping mechanisms designed purely to navigate that specific, often unsafe space.
Can you give us an example of something our listener might recognize? Maybe something they're doing without even realizing why.
Sure. A classic one is hypervigilance.
Oh,
Let's say you were in an environment, maybe a really critical family or a super competitive workplace where you always had to be on edge, waiting for the next negative comment or problem. Your brain literally learned to scan for threats constantly. That's hypervigilance. Your nervous system gets stuck in this on-alert mode.
Always looking for danger, even when there isn't any.
Exactly. And that system maybe kept you relatively safe there. But now, when you're trying to heal, those very survival tools, that constant anxiety, the anticipating criticism, maybe people-pleasing, they become the chains keeping you stuck.
Oh, okay.
The environment itself keeps triggering those old, exhausting responses.
So the place itself acts like a constant reminder, a trigger, telling your nervous system, hey, those old defenses, you still need them, even if the objective danger is long gone. You're trying to find peace while your brain's still prepping for battle.
Perfectly put. And that brings us to the third and maybe the most crucial piece for doing deep emotional work. The lack of safety.
Safety.
Healing, real healing, requires a fundamental sense of stability, internal security. To really process trauma or deep emotional pain, you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable.
You have to let your guard down.
You do. You have to be able to sit with those really uncomfortable emotions. Grief, anger, shame, whatever they are, and trust that they won't completely overwhelm you.
And that kind of vulnerability, that takes immense trust in your surroundings.
Precisely. So if you're still in a place that feels threatening, even in subtle ways. You
Yeah.
simply can't afford to drop that guard. You can't feel safe enough to really expose those vulnerable, wounded parts of yourself.
Mm.
The environment keeps your body's internal alarm system switched on, maybe humming quietly in the background, but definitely active. It makes deep restorative work feel inherently risky.
Yeah.
If you try to, say, cry about something painful, or process a difficult memory while you're still physically near, or even just mentally preoccupied with the source of that pain, your body often reads that vulnerability as a potential danger.
That's a really important distinction. So without that feeling of safety and without a break from those negative patterns constantly being reinforced, you're just stuck. You're caught in a loop.
Fundamentally stuck, yes. Your mind might desperately want to heal, but the environment itself is working against your body's basic need for safety and restoration.
Okay, so that's the trap. A pretty grim picture, actually. So the really critical question for anyone listening who resonates with this is, what's the way out? If staying put is the core problem, what's the proactive approach? What do the sources say we should do to build a healed life?
All right, once you see the trap clearly, the path out starts to become clearer too. Our sources lay out a pretty practical four-step framework. It's designed for intentional movement forward.
Okay, I'm ready. Step 1.
Step 1, and this is often the toughest, but it's non-negotiable, create distance.
Distance. And like we mentioned earlier, that doesn't always mean packing your bags and moving across the country, right? That might not be feasible for everyone immediately.
Absolutely not. While physical distance like quitting the job, ending the relationship, moving is often the most direct way. Creating emotional distance can be just as vital, sometimes even more so initially.
How does that work? Emotional distance.
It means setting really firm, really clear boundaries. It's about creating internal space, even if you can't create physical space yet.
Okay.
This emotional distance lets you gain the perspective needed to see the situation more objectively, instead of being totally swamped by the day-to-day drama or pain.
So for someone who feels they can't leave right now, maybe a tough family situation or a job they rely on, what would emotional distance look like in practice?
It could mean practicing saying no more often, maybe for the first time. It could mean strictly limiting contact, deciding when and how you interact, or even doing a digital detox from a specific person or group online.
That's a great challenge for you listening right now. If you feel stuck, what's the smallest, lowest risk boundary you could set today? Just to start practicing creating that distance.
It could be incredibly simple, like, I won't check work emails after 6 p.m., full stop. Or, with family, I'll answer calls between these hours,
Yeah.
and if the conversation gets critical, I will state that I need to hang up.
Yeah.
That small act, setting one boundary, it's the first step towards reclaiming your mental space.
Okay, so you create that bit of protective space, that distance. Then what? The focus has to shift, right?
Yes, completely. Once that buffer exists, the focus shifts radically inward. This leads to the second step, which is actually quite creative. Focus on self-care and embodiment.
Self-care. But you're saying it's more than just like relaxation techniques.
Oh, much more. Bubble baths are nice, downtime is essential, but this is deeper. It means shifting your focus towards actively building something new within yourself. Yes, do things that bring you genuine joy, definitely. But the critical part is actively working on embodying the person you aspire to become.
Embodying. Okay, tell me more about that. How does someone actually do that? Move from just thinking about being, say, more confident to actually being more confident?
It's about creating behavioral evidence. Proof for your own brain. If the old you in the toxic environment was maybe passive or avoided conflict,
Yeah.
the new you, the one you're embodying, practices setting one small boundary every single day, just one.
Oh,
You prove to your nervous system that speaking up, even slightly, is actually safe now.
okay.
Or if the old you felt invisible or maybe dressed to hide, the new you consciously chooses clothes that feel good, stands a little taller. It's this active daily process of making choices that build new habits. Habits that directly contradict the old painful patterns.
So you're essentially designing your future self and then consciously acting that design out, choice by choice.
Exactly. You're living into it.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. Healing isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's an act of deliberate creation.
Precisely. But, and this is important, you don't have to build this entirely new identity all by yourself in a vacuum. Which brings us to step 3. Seek support.
Right. Getting help.
Yes. This is about the practical external scaffolding you need because, let's face it, when you're fundamentally rebuilding your emotional and behavioral systems, objective guidance is incredibly helpful.
We often hear about therapy, counseling.
Right.
What's their specific role in this phase, the rebuilding phase?
They offer two absolutely critical things: a neutral perspective, like a mirror, and accountability.
Okay.
A good therapist helps you safely process those overwhelming emotions, the grief, the anger, the confusion that you simply couldn't deal with back in the unsafe environment.
Makes sense.
And they also help you develop the new, healthier coping strategies you need for a healthy life. Strategies the old environment never taught you, or maybe even punished you for trying.
And what about things like support groups?
Support groups are fantastic for validation. They help normalize your experience, break down that awful feeling of isolation that toxic places breed.
It helps you see that your reactions weren't crazy. They were normal responses to an abnormal, unhealthy situation.
Exactly. It depathologizes your pain.
Okay, so we have distance, self-care through embodiment, seeking support. What's the final step?
The final step is the one that often gets misunderstood or maybe rushed or even resisted quite strongly. It's the role of forgiveness. Step 4 is forgive when ready.
Ah, forgiveness. That's a big one. What's the most crucial thing for our listener to grasp about this part?
The absolute key takeaway is that forgiveness in this context is fundamentally an act of self-liberation. It is not about condoning what happened. It's a process, definitely not instant, and it's done entirely for the benefit of the person healing, that's you, not for the person who caused the harm.
So what does it actually mean then, according to the sources?
It means letting go of the consuming power of resentment. Resentment is like this emotional chain that keeps you tethered to the past event, and often to the person involved.
So forgiveness isn't about saying what you did was okay. It's more about cutting that emotional chain, severing the link between their past actions and how you feel right now.
Precisely. You're essentially declaring your emotional independence from that event and that person's impact. You stop giving your precious energy to that resentment, that anger, that bitterness,
Yeah.
and you reclaim that energy for yourself, for the ongoing work of building and embodying your new healed self. It's often the final major internal piece needed to truly move forward. So we pull all this together, synthesize everything we've discussed today. The absolute core insight for you, the listener, is that your environment, it's never just a passive backdrop to your healing. It's actively influencing your psychology, constantly. It's either a major obstacle, reinforcing the pain, the old patterns, the lack of safety,
Or
or it's a critical resource, providing the stability, the perspective, and crucially, the space you need for profound growth and recovery.
okay. So what does this boil down to for you listening right now? If you're taking steps to create that distance, physical or emotional, the next big move is about deliberate creation.
Yes.
It's connecting that self-care piece, finding joy, finding peace with the active, conscious effort of embodying the healed whole person you want to be. You're not just escaping the past anymore. You're intentionally building and stepping right into a different future.
And that idea, that deliberate creation, it leads to maybe a final provocative thought I'd like to leave you with.
Okay.
We've talked about how self-care involves embodying the person you want to become, right? And that healing needs distance. Now, what if you think about distance not just as getting away from harm, but as creating a kind of blank canvas? How might the very act of creating physical or emotional distance also create the mental space needed for you to almost pre-experience the life of that future, healed self?
So changing your environment allows your mind to start living in that desired future even before it's fully reality.
Maybe. Think about that connection. By changing your space, maybe you give your mind the permission it needs to start inhabiting that healed future, mentally rehearsing it long before you feel you've fully arrived. Something to mull over.